needed a place.
This is very official, these mics.
No, look at these nice microphones.
Wow. I feel like a city council meeting or something.
Yeah.
That's huddling.
Oh, I just not.
Hello, hello. How nice that you guys came out so late at night.
That's true. We had 4:30 here.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is a weird time.
So I didn't call you back.
Oh.
I left a message a couple of minutes ago.
Oh, we're gonna.
Well, John has something to say.
Good.
Where are you sitting, John?
Okay. I haven't, I mean, I just picked these up yesterday.
It's hard to keep up with everything going on.
Well, actually, if you look at the agenda here, we've got a few like, well,
You know,
called
I think
meeting
there's
to
a lot of
order. We
things
have
that we
some
haven't
announcements
Finished up, like, you know,
and
I've been in other
have
organizations
to
where we
acknowledge that they met in
kept
executive
a
session,
list
then
of
the
like
committee
action items.
report,
like
and
to
then
see
my
if they've been
report,
completed or
and
not,
then
like,
it's homeowner forum.
you know,
And
like
when that
we're gonna look
happens,
at
you'll be
the asphalt
invited.
again, or, you know, the resealing.
Usually they just ask for a show of hands who wants to speak, and then they
Yeah.
ask you to come up to this microphone right here, and that's about it.
A log,
Huh?
a log or some kind of.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I want that.
Okay.
You have great ideas, I tell you. So it's 117.
I feel like I can't wear this mask, like it's gonna drive me nuts. I don't know how people do it all day.
Well,
I just feel, well, when I have my glasses on, it's a lot worse.
it is for some reason. I know, I
'Cause
can't
it-
wear glasses with it.
And they say, well, bend it and do this, and it's like, oh,
I know, I bend it as much as I can, but it still doesn't get very close.
and it just makes me feel hot. I don't know why, but
Me
like,
too, my whole face and stuff. Just, I think it's just the nature of the mask.
okay, let me look. There's two.
See, what this is, you should do it 2 times a month, and then here it's every 7 weeks. But
Okay.
here, this is doing CC and law enforcement, which isn't their job, they're ground stewards. I do not agree with that. And then, and this is, well, you haven't said that we want to do this stuff, and so I don't think, you know.
Maybe
that's
we
a-
need to put the
Yeah,
sign back
priority
out
thing.
that we have board meetings.
I don't think they should be looking for places where.
Yeah.
criminals
Yeah.
The one
I
that
think
we
that we
usually
were
put
more-
on the
Just, I think the priority
island
is
there.
really,
Yes, those
the
sign holders that
unsightly
we have
areas
are
where
actually the property of
there's
Cheryl
not correct
Nelson. She bought them with her own money.
drainage and
Yes,
things are
so
dead
when
or.
COVID hit and we didn't really have a social program.
It kind, I mean, they're saying it in a roundabout way, but
But it's too wordy.
yeah, you're right.
I just want.
This is,
Maybe we need to make some.
It's not up the state, it's ours.
I mean, it's like 2, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Whatever.
Well, see, that was
That's
one of my
cheap, and I
things
mean,
where
it's
I
easy
felt
to.
like
It could very well be.
we should have a, strategic, like which things do we
Well, I
want
know,
to
but
get done in the next
I
year.
know.
Hi.
But you know what? I
Hi.
prefer them actually here than on Zoom. I'm gonna bring my own hammer next time instead of like.
Yeah, we'll get a bottle of water.
Well, actually,
Forgot mine. I
sometimes
had it
he
all
doesn't
ready to
have
go and then someone
it,
called.
which is an issue.
But,
Oh. He means I could. No, not that.
yeah.
Don't do that. So, you know, we did this vaccination session now, we're still in one session. And I had a neighbor say, do you think we care that somebody is getting their fence redone and it's $5,000? Do you think we care? You can decide that, you're the board, you decided anyway.
Yes. And I mean, truly,
But that was.
I know. But that's what we drag. That's how the meeting gets dragged on, you know.
Well, and there's so many. I mean, I looked at that packet and I thought, oh my gosh.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Very interesting. It's always the same. Very seldom.
How are you?
It is.
Good.
It is for the people who come to work. But I think it's interesting how many people are actually on Zoom now.
Yes.
I mean, we have sometimes 30 people on Zoom.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
if you put 30
Do you want it? Yeah, do you want it?
Yeah, they can
Wanna
watch
talk to
TV
me
or
first?
eat while they're watching us, I guess. And,
yeah, they can turn off the
Yeah.
video.
yes.
I'm just thinking about how long it takes to do the minutes and stuff. So, something to think about. Yeah, yeah,
This guy is the John Smith.
7 days.
That's the way he is in person. He goes on and on and on.
So it,
Hi, Billy.
Quite frankly, read it, but I don't understand.
my neighbor Holly is so great. I mean, she teaches chemistry all day long. And then she logs into the meeting. Interesting. I knew she was coming.
Well, that's just not right.
Well, I
I
don't
think
think
his argument is basically,
she worked.
as he expressed it to me, the worst storm we ever had.
I mean, it's a shame that whether you have somebody or not. I mean, I think it doesn't matter. I mean, I made no difference. You know, we were
Yeah.
also on different pages, not on the same page. But that is wrong. You know, you should not have to hide. Betsy, do we have anybody on Zoom yet?
Yeah, we have quite a few.
Yeah, we do.
Are we ready
16,
to start?
yes.
Are these mics on?
Yes.
Are they on? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Are they on?
I would recommend making sure you're not wearing your mask just for the people at home.
How do you turn them on, Betsy?
They should be on. If the light is green, it is on. But remember, you have to keep it a little close to your mouth when you speak.
Ready, Becky? Betsy?
Yeah.
You love that.
I knew that would wake you guys up. I love this thing. Previous presidency. So welcome everyone to the October Nepenthe Board of Directors meeting. I'll try to get this microphone close to me so you can all hear me.
That's better.
And welcome to the 18 folks on Zoom. It's great to see that many people. We have, I wouldn't call tonight's agenda short, but we do have one item that will probably generate some discussion. And I would like to remind everyone the ground rules for these meetings regarding testimony. You have 3 opportunities to speak, 2 homeowner forums, and then if you care to speak on one of the agenda items, you have that opportunity as well. The ground rules are you will be limited to 3 minutes so we can keep it going. Ask you to introduce yourself and where you live for the record, and then be concise and courteous, and we'll listen to anyone who wants to talk. Okay. So before we get into the agenda, I would like to say a couple of things. It's a really hard time flipping these pages when I can't put my fingers. I want to give tremendous kudos to our outreach committee.
Yes.
If you missed Jazz by the Pool, you're bad because it was really good. And then a week later, we had the homeowners education forum out on the pool deck, which was well organized. We had treats and chips and all the committees are represented, and pretty good attendance. And I think it was excellent. I met a lot of folks who are new to the community, and it was really valuable for them kind of finding out how things work. Lastly, next board meeting is November 3rd. At that board meeting, the directors will be adopting a budget for 2022. I can tell you that the finance committee, management, and the board of directors has been working with a fine-tooth comb analyzing the budget. I can only tell you that we're probably looking at hopefully a relatively small increase in assessment. And most of that will be as a result of the finance committee recommending that we adopt the reserve study. And that's a $10 increase right away. So the operations budget, we're still tearing it apart. So that's as much as I can tell you now, but we will be discussing that at November. That's right. Thank you. Before that, the finance committee will be holding what I would call a budget forum or budget meeting. Put this on your calendars for October 19th at 6 o'clock here. And the finance committee will walk through the basics of how the organization builds its budget and then what then creates our monthly assessments. It's not intended to go down to the weeds and individual items, but if you have questions and individual items, please let the presenter know so that she can discuss that with you at another time. Okay, have I missed anything?
Yes. Do you want to talk about Rick Russo?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
At the last board meeting, the board of directors approved hiring a new insurance agent for our flood insurance and our general liability insurance. Name is Rick Russo. He came highly recommended from Betsy, who has dealt with him professionally. I met with him as well, and I think we're going to be well served. So I'm pleased that we've done that. And now it's up to you, Mr. Russo, to meet our expectations.
Yes, and if you do need any certificate of insurance for your lender, we'll definitely put you in contact with them. When the new budget is published and sent out to all the members, it will include an insurance summary sheet in there, and it will have the contact information as well. So just want everybody to be aware of that. I'll also put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, I think it will turn out to have been a great decision.
Yeah.
Do any of the directors have other announcements or comments to make?
Tennis is going to start earlier at 5:30 on Tuesdays because of, it's getting darker. That's
Good.
it.
So Ashley, have a favor. Could you include me on the text distribution list?
Okay.
Sheesh. I
figure
just hear about it.
Leslie.
Well, I do, but.
Okay. You don't need anything.
Linda, Marcus? you think that- Okay, let's go to agenda item 2. I don't know quite how to describe this. We had an executive session this afternoon dealing with disciplinary issues, people who are late making their payments, all confidential things. Betsy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that that is the monthly practice of the board, is to do that, to provide confidentiality to those sensitive items.
One thing we have done is we have moved it to earlier in the day, which allows us to not have to rush so fast to get in here, and then allows us to get here a little bit early for the board meeting so we can kind of greet everyone before the meeting starts. So today is the first day we did that. I think it was a great decision.
Yeah.
Okay, we are coming to committee reports. And I will take this in order. Oh,
Ken
there you
Luttrell,
are.
yep.
Do you have a report on the architecture committee? And please grab the microphone.
And it's on. You just need to make sure your mouth is about as close as mine is to this microphone,
And
please.
again,
And you can
please-
remove your
Please
mask.
introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Okay, I'm Ken Luttrell, Chairman of the Architectural Review Committee. And I have 2 or 3 things that I want to discuss tonight. First, just a quick report on the attendance at our committee table at the forum last week. There weren't that many homeowners attending, but as President just mentioned, there were quite a few new homeowners at that event, and they kind of had the wrong impression of what our committee does. So I'm just pointing out now that I'll be working with our committee secretary, Alan Waters, to develop another short informational article we'll put in the newsletter to let especially the new homeowners, we have quite a few here now, I think,
Yeah.
let them know that we are here not only to support the board in reviewing and approving applications, but in assisting the applicants, because we're well aware that they're dealing with something first time, only time, and it can be very confusing. So this is something we make an effort to look at the application and start helping them process it as easily as possible. Second thing I wanted to address, that's the third item that's approved in the consent calendar, the masonry fence that's going up at one of our homeowners. She
1433 Commons.
I'll just, not going to get into the specifics that much, but I just want to mention that she desired to replace her decaying fence with a masonry fence, brick wall fence. 6 feet high. And she wanted to stay with the same pattern of brick and color of brick that we see in all of our chimneys and short walls around here. So that was a pretty easy yes for us, and I think for the board. In the process of researching that, and I wanted to mention too, that she is offering to pay the difference between the cost of the masonry fence and the cost of the HOA putting up a new wood fence. I don't think it's going to be that much the way it's being designed. But I've worked with her contractor and have learned that he learned that you have to place a special order for that color of brick and style of brick. So I think we might work with the board and coming up with a means of making that information available to anybody else that wants to replace their wood fences with the brick wall fence.
Yeah.
Yes, Linda.
Oh, Mary,
Mary.
Pardon?
Mary,
Oh, Mike, okay.
sorry, can't hear me.
So it's available, it just has to be on special order. So other homeowners who wish to do what Cheryl's doing will be able to do it. They just need to know the time frame and the special order aspects of it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to look into that some more and see how much of a special order situation it is, but it's a brick that probably isn't used that much. So I think we just need to make people aware that there's one source for it, probably only one source.
Is the, I think this is a question for the board, but my understanding is that the board is interested in having the ARC write criteria for brick fences for future applicants. Is that your understanding too?
Some of that has already been done.
Right, but it has to be
Yeah, I know it needs to
adopted.
come to the board,
Right,
but it's not,
right.
we're not complete
Right,
because we got to the gate and
right.
then that was a whole different.
Okay.
thing.
The other issue on that is whether we want to just specify the one color and style, or if we, the HOA, will be receptive to other colors. So that's something to be addressed later.
Sure.
Okay, so that's it for me. Any questions? Any other questions?
Other questions from the board? Okay, thanks very much.
You bet.
All right, next committee report is the Finance Committee. I don't see anyone here. Is anyone on Zoom from Finance?
Susan Timmer is on Zoom.
Susan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, good evening.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. We met, the Finance Committee met on September 27th from 4:30 to 5:45. As you mentioned, John, we looked over a draft budget. It wasn't complete because the contract for landscaping hadn't been finalized. And I think there was another thing that was still kind of in the process of being figured out. But we saw that the work that Betsy had done so far on the operations budget, and she had made a lot of cuts to her operations. They also managed to reduce the increase from first service from 5% to 2%, which was lovely. This budget didn't include any changes to parking or security patrols. And we were still able to see a reduction. And just kind of skipping ahead, we also noticed that the taxes, the federal tax payments were in both the operations budget and the reserve budget. So we saved ourselves a little money there in allocations. So that'll free up a little bit of money for landscaping negotiations or whatever the board decides. So currently on this draft budget, which is reiterate is not final, the dues are right now $549 per household, which is a raise of $13 from no, I take that back. Sorry about that. It's a raise of 13 just on the operations budget. And that is down from $20. So everybody can cheer that. And maybe we're not done yet.
That's correct. We're not done yet. So
Right.
I don't want to give anybody false expectations. So
Well, the only expectation that they should have is that we're working really hard to keep the costs as low as possible, that we're all extremely motivated and looking everywhere. And Tara is looking more closely into the tax issues, and we'll have some opinion on those allocations. And as you already pointed out, we have approved the reserve budget, which does increase the homeowner dues by at least 3.8%. So other than that, you already mentioned the forum that will be on the 19th at 6 p.m. at the clubhouse. We reviewed the August financials and everything looked good there. We ended the month with a small positive variance. We reviewed the reserve tracker, and Betsy observed that we were pretty much on track with most of our allocations, a few little things here and there. And John, you announced to the team that the city had agreed to maintain the trees along Howe Avenue, which will result in some savings or reallocations for us. Anyway, we will benefit from that.
It's about a $45,000 savings.
Exactly. And I believe that's it. So if anybody has any questions for me, or if I noticed some other people were also on the call, if other people want to mention anything that I might have missed.
Questions, comments from the board? Apparently not. Okay. Thank you, Susan.
My pleasure.
Next committee is the Grounds Committee. Steve Huffman, you're up.
That's the page down to the bottom. That's where our requests are. We have 2 requests of you. One is that we recommend you approve a proposal for tree work in Zone 5. Keep going, please. There we go. And the other is it's called Zone Steward Guidelines, but it's what I would call a duties document, which defines the duties of the various members of our committee. And that's also in your agenda. So I assume you'll call on me at that point if you want.
Correct.
That's all.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Questions from the board? Moving right along, the Insurance Committee. Anyone here from the Insurance Committee? Peter, would you? No. Okay. Ashley, you're the liaison. Anything to add?
I think just that next meeting, we're going to be looking at, next meeting, we're going to be looking at maybe some motion detector lights, or just, maybe working with our architectural committee to provide a little bit more flexibility, because I know it's a big concern for people with, the alleys being too dark, or worried about, someone, I don't know, just general safety. So we'll be working on that.
Questions from the board?
Leslie says that she can speak if you'd like her to on the ILS. Leslie Arnall.
Yeah.
Do you want to recognize her?
Did Leslie say she'd like to speak?
Yeah, I did. I think
Well, the chair
generally,
recognizes Leslie Arnall.
okay, Donka. The bottom line is that the 2 big projects for the ILS committee was the safety forum, which I think was well attended and greatly appreciated. And the second big item was the issue of what are we going to do about the insurance policy, which John can perhaps talk about what happened there. I'm sorry, my dad is ordering pizza in the background. Anyway,
What kind of pizza?
yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you it's from Round Table.
We're figuring that out.
Yeah. So anyway, so having attacked those two big projects, the next projects are generally to canvas the issues that are in front of the insurance safety committee and to prioritize. One of those, as Ashley said, would be the lighting, and the other would be kind of a discussion of the flood insurance and others. So I'm sure our next meeting is going to be identifying our issues to focus on in the future and what the priorities are. So that's how I would summarize what we've done.
Thank you, Leslie. Any questions from the board? Okay. Emily, Outreach Committee?
I don't see Emily on the list, but this is John. I can give you a quick
Oh,
rundown.
John, I'm actually here in real life.
Oh,
Isn't it wild? I had enough Zoom meetings today, so I thought I'd show up in person.
amazing. Thank you.
It is amazing, but thanks, John. All right, so we do have our September minutes, but since we met before our two events, I thought I'd just provide a brief recap, and then it'll all be summarized in our next meeting minutes. We had our Jazz by the Pool event on September 26th. Oh, by the way, my name is Emily Ma Nakanishi, and I am the Outreach Committee Chair. Okay, so we had Jazz by the Pool on September 26th. It was really well attended. We had 69 people pre-purchase tickets, and then on the day of, there were 30 who walked in and showed up. So we had almost 100 in attendance. I think everyone had a really good time. And as John mentioned, the following week, we had our homeowners forum. It took place outside. We had different tables set up for all the committee members. There were snacks, as John said, and it was just a really nice opportunity for residents to get together and connect with one another. We had our board members in attendance, our different committee members, and there were some people that had moved in like a week before, and so they were really excited that there was something for them. And they had the opportunity to ask their questions. Betsy was there. I think she got a lot of questions. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good event. I counted the name tags, very scientific. So we had about 60 people in attendance, including our committee members. So, you know, kind of trickled in, and we'll see how that goes.
It seemed that they really enjoyed it. I liked it because I got to talk to everybody, which a lot of times doesn't happen when we have a bigger event. So that was nice.
Yeah, the fact that they
Yeah.
got to walk up and
Yeah.
chat with you and ask you their very specific questions, I'm sure. So yeah, does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you.
John, did I miss anything?
John Donovan?
He's still muted.
Nope.
Okay.
I know, but he isn't unmuted.
All right.
He's testing his mute button.
That sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, John. Teamwork. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Okay.
Betsy, do you have a management report?
I do. I did not have this ahead of time, but I do have it here. Under communication, the next newsletter will have that water meter consumption report, that the newsletter that's coming out Friday. I ran out of room in the last one, so I definitely want to get that information out to people. We'll be reporting, of course, on the board meetings this month, talking about UPS delivery notifications, the budget hearing, landscape updates. Ashley found these really great paper, eco-friendly green waste bags. So I'm going to be highlighting those in the newsletter. And just a brief notice about, it's been so long since we've had private rentals in the clubhouse, but they're happening again now. And there seems to be some confusion about what areas of the clubhouse are open to the homeowners when there is an event in progress. So I want to just touch on that in the newsletter. So we're all relearning all this too. And every time Nirmal and I do a rental, we're like, oh yeah, and that. So did do some work on the website. I try to do that every month, just do a cleanup on it. Added a work page for the Architectural Review Committee so we can upload applications securely and they can access the applications without having to rely on when did that email come in? Some notes on facilities. I will definitely send this to you all so you have my report. I was a little late with it this month. The aluminum mullion for the rear pool deck doors finally came in and they were working on that today. They're going to finish it tomorrow. So those doors will now be very secure as we go into the winter months, which is really important. And again, Critical Path Reconstruction is doing siding repairs, and I think they have finished their fencing repairs that they were contracted for. The Zone 7 roof and gutter cleaning was amazing. We did not have one single call from a homeowner over there to complain or, maybe they missed the cleanup or whatever. No, it went really well. So that was great. And then this is the email that came in from Kevin Hawker of the Department of Public Works, Urban Forestry. He said, our records indicate that the right-of-way for Howe Avenue extends into the Nepenthe property at this location, somewhere in the neighborhood of between 17 and 30 feet behind the curb. According to Sacramento City Code 12.56 and our current practices, we can provide tree services to any trees whose trunks fall within the right-of-way, even if they are also on private property. Yay! We have no objections to providing services to these trees as part of our normal proactive pruning program and upon request on an as-needed basis. As we discussed before, there are trees at this location, oh, this is a lot, that appear to fall within the right-of-way, but are not currently included in our inventory. So this is what they're working on. We are in the process of trying to find the limits of the right-of-way in the field and add the trees to our inventory. The biggest challenge that we face right now is that the right-of-way does not follow a clearly defined line that can be seen in the field. So it isn't an easy task to figure out which trees are in and which trees are out. For example, in some locations, we will be able to provide services to the trees on the entire berm, but in some areas, we will only be able to provide services to the trees between the curb and the top of the berm. There are several hundred trees involved, so we need to get this right, or at least close enough that all parties can understand it and perform their work without undue complications. Right now, I have a pretty good idea of where the boundaries are, but I've asked my staff to delineate the boundaries a little more clearly. Once I have that, I'll provide that to you in the HOA with an exhibit that shows what we think we can provide service for and what we can't. I expect we should have that taken care of in another week or two. And I just corresponded with him yesterday on
Sure,
this.
okay. This is the item I mentioned earlier where we had been looking at a $45,000 expense. And I think I particularly felt strongly that we really didn't know where the right-of-way line for Howe Avenue was. And Betsy was all over this for weeks and months. And finally, they fessed up and said, oh, gosh, their right-of-way line is a lot further into the berm than they had been. First, they told us 2 feet behind the curb. You get this, Ken. And now it's between 17 and 30, depending on what the parcel map looks like.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, a lot of those trees that need some work are their trees, not our trees.
Yeah.
So we're super pleased to get this.
Yeah. And we do have tree care going on in the community. Of course, those zone walks and tree work that you've approved through the months. They have been completing those. And we've actually had really good coordination from the Grove. He's telling me each week where they're going to be, and I've been able to talk to the homeowners and let them know to expect it. So that's been really positive. Irrigation repairs, the non-urgent ones are still going on. There is pre-emergent scheduled for October 26th and 27th. I just got that information this week. And the account manager, Oscar Lopez, is preparing a proposal for review by the grounds committee at their October meeting for the remediation of tree removal sites throughout Nepenthe. And then based on the authority provided me by the board at your September 4th executive session, I placed a number of work orders to remediate small areas based on homeowner service requests. For larger concerns, the work order actually took the form of a request for proposal, and I can show you that report. Financial, I think we kind of talked a lot about financial. There's nothing there that's different. Securitas has provided service every day in the last month. And I'll show you that extra work report because I know it was important to you as a board that you, see exactly what these entail. So I will also email this to you so you have it. But these are basically either things that were noted on walks in the community or requests from homeowners, service requests. So you can see like here we've had a loss of plants. Here, there was an irrigation issue going on earlier in the season where we lost these two plants and we're questioning whether the tree can be saved. In this, we have shrubs that have become trees, and I guess a family of rats has taken up residence in this jungle right here. So the homeowner has requested that we remove that gigantic shrub thing. It's not the tree back here, but there's this shrub that's almost as high as the second story. Here we have, a missing plant, and the homeowners filled in with their own pots. So we'll work with them and make sure they know what we can provide them with an appropriate plant. So that's the kinds of work orders we're replacing. This looks better in the picture than it looks in real life. These are weeds, not ground cover. So that's getting cleaned up. They will prepare a proposal for some turf renovation right around 1221 Vanderbilt, 609 Elmhurst. That's a big swath, and the turf is in really poor condition. Some turf seeding and some missing plants, and I think a little more turf seeding. So, and then this is a proposal for improvement because we've got a lot of failing things. So that will be something that the grounds committee can review and then recommend to the board. So,
Betsy?
Yeah.
So when they're doing this, the plants that will be put in will be drought tolerant, low water.
Yes. Already proven plants, nothing experimental, things that
It'd
are
be
already.
because like UC Davis has a list of drought tolerant plants for front yards. Like, are we
True.
we're
And
using something like that?
I'm not doing that just because in my role as manager, I'm just using things that we already know work here, but it may be something that as a board, you want to ask your advisory committee to look into making recommendations to add those to the planting lists of what we already do.
Yeah, well, I definitely would like to.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Yeah,
from
there's
that.
a lot of great new plants out there for sure. And then just lastly, I just wanted to, talk about, we have the phase one. This is phase one. So if you're familiar with this map of Nepenthe, it's all of Dunbarton. It is due for siding repairs, painting of the units, and fence repairs as needed throughout this zone. So I've been working with John Baker and Cheryl Kurtz, a committee, she's not on a committee, but she's a community member with experience in project management. And we hope to be, interviewing project managers soon so we can get going on this project. And that's my report, but are there other questions?
Thank you. Very complete. Any questions from the board?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Let me get back up to the beginning.
We
here.
have now time for the first of the two homeowner forums. This again is a time for members either here in person or on Zoom to provide comments or questions. Typically, I think we would ask if you have something to say about one of the agenda items, if you could hold off until the agenda item comes up. If that's inconvenient for you, if you have to leave soon, we can certainly take you up on the forum, but for the record, it's easier for us to handle your comments on an agenda item. So with that, is anyone in the room care to speak on the first homeowners forum?
Okay, please come on over, Pete. And use the microphone.
Oh, wait,
Oh, sorry.
John, yeah.
Can't- I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is John Trotta, 310 Elmhurst Circle. I've worked with nonprofit boards for over 40 years. Mr. Baker, in your candidate statement, you touted the concepts of transparency, communication, and accountability. You also espoused the homeowners should have an owner-centric governing board as opposed to a board-centric governing board. How then does a situation regarding the changes in parking procedures for the Dunbarton section address those principles? They don't. Regarding transparency, did the board approve the content of the survey in open session prior to its implementation? I don't think it did. Communication, did the board agendize the content of the survey on a regular board meeting agenda? No, it didn't. Accountability, did the board as a whole approve the content and implementation in open session at a regularly scheduled board meeting? No, it didn't. Word on the street is that 2 Nepenthe board members were not aware of the survey until it was produced for implementation. That's 3 for 3. In baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. It appears you violated your own stated promises as a candidate. As noted above, there was no transparency, no communication, and no accountability to all Nepenthe homeowners. There was only a group of people with personal interests about changing parking procedures. What we experienced in the Dunbarton circumstance was not owner-centric nor board-centric. It was a group of people running roughshod over what should have been a transparent, publicly communicated, and accountable process. It was not. It was a successful usurpation of authority of the Nepenthe board. It was a chaotic process that yielded an undemocratic outcome.
Thank you for your comments, John. Any comments from the board?
Oh,
I think that there are several things in what John said that are true. I know personally, I never saw the survey. I didn't know it was going to be going out. I don't know how large of a population was surveyed. We didn't ever see written results of the survey. And I know if we're using SurveyMonkey, that it is possible for us to allow other people to see what the results were and what the questions were for a survey. I've spoken to several people who live on Dunbarton. They didn't even receive the survey. So I question the validity of a survey that actually ended up in a very, very quick rule change within 30 days. So thank you for your comment.
Other comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say something too. As I mentioned at the last meeting or the previous meeting, not only Dunbarton people were affected by the rule change, there were also other people that are using the Dunbarton circle going through their house or through the alleys to their houses, and most of them, or maybe all of them, also did not get included in the survey. Plus, me as a board member, I also never saw that survey, so I really can't even say what it stated. So I do think we should have, all of us on the board should have seen what the survey said.
Other comments from the board?
I can understand the concern about the survey. I do not believe that that brought the topic of changing the parking on Dunbarton up, but it was not the basis for the decision. We had it on the agenda. We heard from any resident that wanted to speak. So I hear your concern, but it wasn't the decision-making tool.
Hi. Well, I can tell you that I saw John count through all the letters. He encouraged people to write the letters. And that was, what we did in response to a survey, since we didn't see the survey. We didn't think that everyone got it. I do believe, and we've talked about it with the outreach group, we do need something like a Survey Monkey that can really capture how people really feel and what they want. It's something that we need to look into and budget for. But there was general confusion, I think, because you had the group of Dunbarton people. And then, during that time, then the Elmhurst people said they wanted to be included. But so I think the phasing of the Dunbarton people coming and then the Elmhurst kind of tagging along, and the two different decisions, and maybe looking at two different types of rules, I think it's just created an overall confusion for people that I think we're going to address. But I think we can find a solution and try it out, and all of us are adaptable to change. But that was my priority. When I read through the letters, I counted just like John did. And even though that topic was on the Dunbarton, I still included what the Elmhurst people were saying. And then, of course, we tagged on the Elmhurst to the next meeting. But it's, I'm hopeful that we'll come to a decision that everyone's going to be kind of okay with. So.
So I guess my biggest concern is when we're talking about transparency or rule changes, even though this was only affecting Dunbarton at the time, I feel like the information needed to go to our entire community about what was happening. And I hope that it never happens again like that. I think that as a board member, I feel remiss in not knowing anything about this. And then all of a sudden it became the basis for a rule change.
And there are,
having served on
Please
boards,
introduce yourself, please.
Kathy Donna, 302 Elmhurst.
Thank you.
I've served on a number of boards myself. And I'm a little bit appalled that what this gentleman has said has been evidently written off. This is huge. This should bring about a sense of, oh my gosh, thank you for pointing out these things. We didn't handle them as properly as we will or should have or whatever, rather than an excuse for them. This is not okay. This is an embarrassment, and it doesn't feel good at all as a homeowner. Now, to say a bunch of Elmhurst people got together and, oh, they sounded like they wanted it too. I never heard anything about that. I never saw a survey. A bunch of people is not what decisions are made on. It needs to be formalized. This is basic board stuff. It's not jumping to, oh, a bunch of people here or these over there. This needs to be done appropriately. So that's it.
Peter, did you want to speak?
I'm Peter Pelcover. I live on Dunbarton Circle. And I originally was going to make a comment about the landscaping because it seems like our area has been deserted. I have difficulty getting into my back gate because the bushes have been so overgrown. I don't know what's going on. It seems like the other sections are getting care and we're not. That was my first comment. With regard to the discussion that's just been going on, as I said, I live on Dunbarton. I'm not concerned at all about your controversy one way or the other. I applaud the board for what they've done. It worked. I walk my street and Elmhurst every day, at least once a day. I drive out through the extent of Dunbarton. There is no significant difference in the parking or what's going on than was there previously with all the restrictions we have. And I don't find it, at all hard to deal with. I'm very pleased with it. I actually am able to park my car in front of my house occasionally when the need arises. And again, I thank the board for what they've done. And if the folks at Elmhurst want it, I think you ought to give it to them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
There are people on the Zoom call that would like to speak.
Is there anyone here in the audience first? Okay, let's go to, yes. Greg?
I'm a former board member, as you all know, and I was appalled by when I started hearing about this monkey business, for want of a better term. Knowing a little bit about surveys and a little bit about polling, we all know that polling can be gerrymandered, can be messed with, can be twisted to get across a certain point of view. That is what the committee system is for. I'm not going to lecture you guys. You should know that. We just spent a long time listening to what the committee's recommendations are. That's the core of how this works democratically. It is not done by secretly having polls to serve a certain number of people's wishes. That's not the way it works. Now, I could split this up to some people that are pretty green in terms of board policy and board reputation and basically performance and behavior. But this should not go without concern. I would suggest that a committee be formed to look into this thing. I would also suggest that we stop the survey monkeys. Survey monkeys are about 10 years old. And like anything else we've done with technology here, regardless of the younger people in our midst who think that basically technology fixes everything. Technology has some real issues with democracy. Witness the government of the United States right now.
Thank you.
I just want to add that if a homeowner even wrote me a letter, everything I get in the board packet, whether it would have been from one person about the parking, I know that we would have, talked about it and addressed it. And so, the unofficial poll that was taking place, that's just, to me, an expression of interest that people wanted to see things changed. And I have to value that. So, and we heard from a lot of people and we got a lot of different opinions and we listened to everyone. I read every letter. We encouraged all of you to write. And so I don't know what else to say other than we're not going to be able to make everyone happy, but I do feel that we've given people the opportunity and we are listening to people and we still are. So, we'll talk more about that in a minute. So, yes, I've read all the letters. No, I have read every letter. All of us have, they go in our board packet. So nothing, we encourage you to, and that's the main way. And by people coming to our meetings and speaking, that's what we're listening to the most. So I want to do what you guys want. And it's not, I don't have an issue with parking myself. So, but really I'm here to serve you guys and I'm reading everything. So I don't know. You're free to criticize, but I don't really feel that we can be criticized when we're reading everything and listening to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Could you come use
Dale,
the
you have to
microphone,
use
please?
the microphone. You must come over here. Yeah, please. And give us your name and
Make sure you
address.
introduce yourself and
Going to say anything, but I just have a question. Dale Shaw, 608 Elmhurst. I've not ever heard anything about a survey, and I don't know about anybody else. So I don't know where this survey came from. We never were ever given anything about a survey, and I don't know of anybody else who's.
It
given
was a
anything.
neighbor to neighbor survey for Dunbarton Circle.
But they're talking about Elmhurst survey
Well,
also,
they're
and
right, but there was no survey for Elmhurst. It was just a neighbor to neighbor survey that was done by some folks on Dunbarton. And that kind of got the whole parking discussion going again.
Yeah, but how can you make a rule on something just a few people have had anything to say about? And so that's my only question. I know that, we've had some questions about this, but there's been no survey. And so I really think that should be stated and that should be let out for everybody to know. If somebody's had a survey and you're saying there is a survey, then it should be given to everybody.
I may have missed it, but could you introduce yourself for my notes?
Shaw, 608 Elmhurst.
Dale Shaw. Dale Shaw. Thank you. I've seen your letter. Thank you.
Okay, online, the three people that have asked to speak are Leslie Arnall, Elizabeth Martyr, and Will Vizard, and now it looks like Cheryl Kurtz.
Okay, who was first?
Yeah,
Chair Chair recognizes Leslie Arnall.
thank you. I'm about irrigation, which is inapropos. So I'm going to sign off at the moment and let other people go.
All right, who was next?
Next was Elizabeth Martyr.
Elizabeth, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Martyr. I live at 1233 Vanderbilt. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a PhD scientist. I'm actually a risk assessment scientist specializing in exposure science. And I have to say, as someone who actually managed to take a vacation, I understand parking is very divisive. I understand that there are very strong opinions on all sides. I do want to just register a note of concern that there be greater consideration given on timing of these issues. You introduced this over the summer when some people may have been traveling. I know some of my own neighbors who might have provided comments were actually out of state. And yes, email, fine, could send an email, but what if they are not focused on this? And I just wanted to emphasize that I think you need to give a little more consideration to things like that. I also know that everyone else feels much more strongly about this, but I will say one more thing. If you're going to consider parking changes on the private streets, it is shocking to me that it wasn't considered for all areas from the outgo. And further, that you've introduced a safety concern. I know people are talking about, I'm in my 30s. I know people here who've lived here longer than I've been alive, right? I will say by changing back or modifying parking when people have started walking or running or walking their dogs in the street there because you don't have sidewalks that circumnavigate Dunbarton or Elmhurst consistently, what you've done by not also considering a modification, say a one-way facing the direction, which would be my question to you all, you've created an incident or a potential for more risk for in pedestrian and traffic interactions than we've had for the past under the new rules. So I just want to register that concern. I have not, honestly wasn't planning to interject myself into this, but I read the packet with all the comments and didn't see that addressed at either meeting. So I would like to register that and ask that you seriously give consideration to the safety concerns, regardless of how you decide to deal with parking. I think you might want to consider, if you're going to have more parking, maybe considering a one-way direction for the private streets that might be a little more thoughtful. Just in terms of process, I actually came here really, and I don't want to go over time, to register a concern about process and transparency with actually landscaping. And I'm really glad someone brought up the climate drought tolerant plants. I think that's really important. And I also am concerned that my zone 5 steward is someone who does not live in the zone. My neighbors and I put in a petition asking about this, asking for an explanation that's reasonable as to why a master gardener that lives in our zone could not be considered. And I would really just like to emphasize, I'd like more transparency. I fully understand there are often reasons that are very good, but I ask that they be shared whenever possible. And that's it. And thank you for your service. And I know this is kind of a thankless job, especially on such heated topics.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Will Vizard.
Will Vizard, would like to speak?
Yeah, relax. I have nothing to say about parking. I believe that the board is still, and correct me if I'm wrong, engaged in negotiations with the landscape contractor. And I'd just like to offer a suggestion, if it's possible. It's having walked the area extensively, as you well know, it seems to me there's a lot of time spent on blowing that really accomplishes relatively little. I mean, I've seen 3 people out in front of the clubhouse blowing what's probably 50 leaves around. I'm not I'm not suggesting that we can do away with blowers right now, although I'd love to see them gone. But is it possible to negotiate down the amount of time commitment that the contractor is spending on blowing? It's going to leave a few more leaves. It's going to leave a little more dust, but blowing, puts dirt on everybody's homes, on all the plants and everybody's vehicle that's parked on the street. It adds to pollution. It adds to noise pollution. So if we could convert any of that time, which we're paying for by the hour, to more useful duties, it would seem to me we're not going to save any money essentially, but we might get some things done that would otherwise the resources wouldn't be human resources wouldn't be available to do. So I just throw that out as a suggestion. It may not be practical, it may not be reasonable, but we've addressed it. We've had it on the agenda twice now on Finance Committee, and we haven't gotten to it because we've run out of time. So I thought I'd just introduce it now.
Thank you, Will. Cheryl Kurtz.
Hi there. I do have just something quickly to say about parking. I live at 802 Dunbarton Circle, and I received the email from Betsy at the beginning of August stating that the board was asking for our input, and I wrote a letter and submitted it via email to Betsy, and then I believe the parking rule change on Dunbarton was voted on at a board meeting. And I just have to say that it's been great for us. As Peter stated earlier, it's really nice to be able to park out front and not have to worry about something while you're unloading children or groceries or whatever it may be. And it's just been really, really nice. So thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else on Zoom?
My name is Bill White and I live on Elmhurst Circle. First, 2 things. We're going to talk about Elmhurst Circle as a separate issue, right?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so I won't talk about that now. But back to William's comment about the blowers. I agree with that, except why don't we just blow off the sidewalks? The turkeys line the sidewalks with bark. You try to walk on them and you're stepping and slipping on the bark. Forget about the street. The cars will take care of the street. The tires will mulch the leaves. That's the way they do every place else in the city. But the sidewalks are dangerous. And so let's just have them blow the sidewalks off.
Thank you. Anyone left on Zoom who'd like to speak at the forum? Okay,
All right.
let's move on to the homeowner correspondence. Betsy, in the interest of time, let's not try to read all of them, but
Right.
if you could give us the gist.
Sure, sure. This is just a kudos on the pilot program. This homeowner went for a walk. She lives on Dunbarton and she really liked the look of the new clean landscape. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm kind of far from there. So that was nice. And then we also heard from Lorraine Silverstein about the blowers also and the pollution. And I also, think that these I won't, I won't go there. That's my opinion. 407 Dunbarton, she said that she was out of town for the safety forum, just had an opportunity to watch the recorded event and wanted to thank the board for arranging this very informative meeting and thank me. Oh, nice, for the excellent recording of the session. So that's nice. And then she asked about whether there were still handouts. And so I gave her some information about that. And then 1221 Vanderbilt wrote to let me know to expect this petition asking for Julie Lane, who is not a member of the committee, but that she be assigned as the steward for Zone 5, speaking to her history and her experiences and training, and a number of homeowners signed that. And of course, directors, you got this in your advance materials. And Normal and I are awesome, and just wanted you to know that Buzz and Mary Claire Hoover really think we're doing a great job, as does Diana Bizard. So
That's nice that they wrote that. Thank you.
yes, so that is the homeowner correspondence, and now we got to get back to that consent calendar, don't we?
Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar.
So I would like to make a motion that we accept the consent calendar with the exception of item E, appoint committee member to the grounds. And I think that all board members realize we need to do a little more review of this issue. We also looked at the standards and practices, and all of you should probably look at that and take a good look at the things we require of board members. So with the exception of item E, I would like to make a move that we accept everything on the consent calendar.
I would like to second that motion.
Questions from the board? Any objections? Without objection, passed.
Okay. Well, he said there were no objections, so without objection, it passes. We have
Item
parking rule change.
Finished business parking. I am going to recommend to the board that we defer action on this item tonight. I'm sensitive to the comments that were made tonight, but also sensitive to the letters we have received and the testimony we have received in previous board meetings. By my count, we have received 54 letters over the last 2 months. Some of them dealing with Dunbarton, some of them dealing with Elmhurst. The Dunbarton letters and the testimony we received here were very favorable for the Dunbarton change. And what I'm hearing, not only from Peter, but from others, it seems to have been working well. We're also hearing there are many folks on Elmhurst who would like the flexibility of easier access to street parking during the day. The item that we have before us does not take care of that. In addition, we have several members who are really concerned about parking from students and faculty from Sac State. That's a much different situation than we have on Dunbarton, and then one that needs to be addressed. So I'd like to hear from the other board members on this, but my inclination and recommendation is we do not take action on this tonight. We go back to the drawing board, work with the community and see if we can come up with something that takes care of everyone's concerns. Other board members?
I want to sing. No.
He said he wanted to sing.
I would also like to look into the safety aspect a little bit more, especially the Elmhurst Circle area where the new landscape was done. I do believe there could be some safety issues if we ever have an emergency with an ambulance or a fire truck or whatsoever. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Other board members?
Yes, I agree with John. I read all the letters that we've gotten on this topic, and the majority of Elmhurst residents seem to be inclined to want what Dunbarton has, with the concern of the students to be addressed. So I don't believe that what we put forth gives that solution. So I agree that I think it should be tabled as well.
Ashley, Linda?
I would like to defer this until we get more information to all of our residents.
Okay, Betsy, let the record show that we are deferring action on this item
Yeah. Are you in
and
agreement?
going back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I did.
Well, and I would hope, Kathy, that you would avail yourself to let us pull this together. John, you as well? Appreciate your comments. I think there's something we can do to take care of hopefully everyone's concerns. There may be a little push and back and forth, but honestly, we have not handled this very well. There was too much confusion between the two streets. That's our bad. It was a disaster at the last meeting, and for that, we need to apologize. So let's go back and fix it. You're welcome.
All right.
All right, are any people here wish to speak about this item now that we've tabled it? Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Shaw at 608 Elmhurst. Very much appreciate a methodical approach to the parking issues on Elmhurst. I totally agree with the Trottas that student parking is an issue if it's not addressed, and it's separate and unique to us, not to Dunbarton. The idea of simplifying overnight parking or vendor parking with the use of a simple placard, which was mentioned, and I believe is now part of the Dunbarton package, is very appealing, particularly if, in fact, you're going away from a computerized registration format. And I believe that is the case, at least that's what I heard.
The Dunbarton does not require a placard during the day.
Okay.
And then there's the option of a placard or using the parking attendant online. So it's,
And is it the intent that the parking attendant online will be going away?
well, the board,
600 a month.
That's what I'd heard. I got the feeling that it was going to be placard or.
I
And
don't,
the final thing I would suggest, if you're going to take a look at safety issues, if you've ever driven onto Elmhurst from the main drag, you'll often find that cars are parked literally to the point of inflection. And if there's any way at all, we could put maybe 30 feet of red paint, no park here, on those points of, prior to those points of inflection, That I think would, if you talk about safety, that is one, because you just can't see what's there and all of a sudden it's there.
So you could also be even more proactive because you can call the city and say there is a vehicle parked on that curve, which is dangerous. Give them the license plate. They used to come out immediately, but I would think that they'd at least make a point of driving by.
If we could just,
Right.
And they have not come out and cited that person. I've even left a note on that person saying, at night when you come around that curve,
yeah, it's,
somebody is going to get hurt. And I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry, Jean, I'm so sorry, but the people that are at home can't hear
Ma'am,
you.
ma'am,
So
could
that's
you
why we
introduce-
insist.
well,
She needs to be recognized.
Yeah.
It's going to be a liability for Nepente if we do not do something about that curve that you're talking about.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Jean Peixoto,
Uh-huh.
and I live at 901 Elmhurst Circle. And that has been a concern of mine several times. I have almost hit that pickup truck that's been parked there numerous times. And I've left a note on it, and several other neighbors have.
And that's at Commons and Elmhurst.
So
It's right on the circle.
get clarification. So we're talking about cars not parked on Elmhurst, but cars
On the
parked
circle,
on the, so on the city street.
on the city
Commons.
street, and it's supposed to be 200 yards back. That is the law. And I have reported it to the police department several times, and it is dangerous. You are 100% right.
I think you could say, make the same point that if you're on Elmhurst trying to exit out onto the city streets, you have a similar problem. We ought to get some cans of red Rust-Oleum and at least on those things that are privately held.
Jim, I hate to push, but you're running out of time.
But that's-
I would
those are
like
my
to,
three
I would like to ask you, what has your experience been like with student parking? And I recognize in the last year and a half, there probably hasn't been any, but before that.
I would have to defer to folks that are closer to the campus, the Trotters. We are probably as far away from that issue as you could and still live on Elmhurst. But it is an issue.
Yeah, but you need a microphone.
Yes,
And you need to be recognized.
Sure, yeah.
appreciate it.
Betsy, do we have people on Zoom who want to talk about this?
I don't think so, but I'll check.
Chair recognizes Christina George.
Yes. I just wanted to give, I hate to come up and talk to you guys because you're all doing a great job, but I know what it's like to be in that position. But I just wanted to give you a background as to how this all happened. The board back in 2016 actually commissioned an ad hoc committee, and I was not on the board at that time. And there were about 8 people, homeowners on there. And Betsy was involved, and Joan Harridan was our liaison, board liaison. So we actually, based on our discussion at the ad hoc committee, we had people from Swarthmore, from Commons, and then Dunbarton and Elmhurst. So then we decided to have a town hall meeting to address all these various problems. Linda, you were on the board at the time.
I wasn't on the board. I was at the town hall meeting. so-
No, but you were on the board. You were actually on the board then because with Joan Harridan. Then afterwards, I got onto the board, and then and Betsy, you were part of this, and then we were discussing the private street at the time. And John, you remember they tried to change the CCNRs for public street, and that did not pass. But we actually worked on the private streets, and I was the liaison at the time, and we had 3 other board homeowners who were part of the ad hoc committee. And one of the things that we did address was, and I'm glad, I think it was Elizabeth Mather who mentioned this about the security and the safety. And that was one of the key elements, because I think, as Ashley has mentioned, the lighting is a problem, and lighting on Elmhurst is terrible. We have no sidewalks, and we have people who are walking their dogs at night. I personally have to be so careful when I come in at night and try and drive along the street. So that was the main concern. We had tons of students parking, and literally they start from about 100 Elmhurst, they go down through the cul-de-sac, they come all the way up to 500, 600 Elmhurst. So that's been the issue there. So we're really looking at, and then, being able for kids to be able to walk around. But I think Peter Pelkofer mentioned the fact that he really likes occasionally to park his car outside his house. That's not a problem. That was never a problem. We've had about 10, 12 people who actually have been parking their car, instead of parking it in the garage, have been parking it on the street and using that as the car park and using the garage for painting, for yoga, for gyms, etc. So I think that was a loophole there. So if you can sort of figure out somewhere where management can actually come in and say, look, if a car is sitting on front of in Elmhurst or Dunbarton or wherever it might be, and they're there every day, and it has happened, it had happened. And that was one of the reasons why we had to do this. And it only takes about 5, 6 people to do this, 5 home. So if you can address that, that would be hugely appreciated.
So now that you've volunteered to be involved in the committee to work out the new rules, I have just signed you up. And you're welcome.
I just have one thing to.
Yeah, Kathy, sure.
Thank you, Kathy, again. I really appreciate how well you've listened and are willing to look at a compromise, and I'd be very happy to serve on some sort of committee to work out that compromise. Yeah, and I do believe in compromise, but one thing I did hear was that the whatever online parking thing was going to end at the end of this month. It seems like we now have the potential of a committee to talk about what might work. So I'm not sure why we would end something that could potentially be part of the compromise. Well, I think
No, it would, once we get this all addressed, our hope, I mean, that's a pretty substantial saving, $7,200 that could be spent much
but
better.
I
a
get
year.
that, but I'm hearing two
And people
different
don't like
things.
it, you know?
No, I think the point is, it's something that needs to be considered. We're not prepared to drop it yet.
Right.
If we can work through a solution for
With or without
just
it.
about everybody, and if we determine we don't need it, fine.
Yeah.
If we still need it, fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one thing I wanted to add is when I look at all the letters and everything else, it seems like I'm seeing, with some groups of Elmhurst people, like a group that wants things that they don't want different rules in one area versus another area. So yeah, I get that. I understand that. But then I also want to, make sure that I address the student issue. And if we make it the same, just because people don't like the confusion, then I'm going to lose out on.
We can't.
So, well,
I think,
I would like more feedback from people because it's
right.
hopefully.
I think our process should get some more input. Except for the student issue, I think we're kind of in the same boat for the 2 streets, but the student issue is a major complication. I will tell you that right now, you're probably not seeing many students because most of the classes are still online. I will also tell you from personal knowledge, because I'm teaching over there, that at the end of January, CSUS is going back all face-to-face. So you're going to face this. So if we could wrap this up before then, that would be nice.
Thank you. And no reason not to. Safety is a huge issue we'll talk about in committee.
And we do have 2 raised hands, Will and Elizabeth. Did you both want to speak to the board on this issue?
Yes, please.
Elizabeth says yes.
I just wanted to chime in as someone who actually is an adjunct professor at UC Davis, not Sac State. I've been following what's been happening at Sac State in terms of the conversion to a residential campus, in part because I might start teaching over there, doing a guest lecture or 2 as well. And I do want to emphasize that we need to take into consideration new data. There will always be people who look for cheap or free parking. But Sac State is converting to be almost more of a residential campus than the former commuter campus it has been, a commuter campus. And I think that's a really important consideration. They also have invested in increased parking garages in addition to the parking lot. So I do want people to take into consideration that there are new data. And yes, while enrollments overall are increasing, the conversion of all those new dorms on the far side of campus, new apartment buildings off of Folsom Boulevard, has indicated that we actually now have a lot more residential students or very close off campus on the other side of campus. So again, there will always be the opportunists, and we should defer that. I mean, I don't understand why a placard system wouldn't help take care of that for all the areas, even on Elmhurst. But I just want to just remind everyone, the situations are changing. That's all. So sorry to speak up on this again, but I did want to just, I love data, and that's new data. So just something to keep into consideration. And thank you all so much. And I
It's a
know this
good-
is a tricky issue.
It's a good thing you didn't go over your 3 minutes the first time.
There you go.
Did Will have his hand raised?
He put it down.
I think it was just raised. And I would volunteer to help with this, even though I'm very busy. I would volunteer because it sounds like maybe you need some neutral parties.
I'm writing your name down, Elizabeth.
Well, and it's unfair to give suggestions and then not help. So
Thank you. Shall we move on to all of the exciting new
Dale
business?
Shaw, would you like to speak again?
To me, that seems really simplistic, and I don't know if I'm missing something. But it used to be if you parked on Elmhurst, you had a plaque, and that was it. If you didn't have a plaque, you were subject to being written up. So if anybody who wants to park on Elmhurst has a parking pass from Elmhurst, and somebody here does not have one, we might assume maybe they're a student. I mean, I don't quite understand why it seems so complicated. We didn't used to have quite as much complication. We didn't have the, the digital thing and everything else, but it seemed to work. So if every house on Elmhurst was given 5 plaques they could have for themselves or friends or whatever number you have, and if somebody parks on Elmhurst without a plaque, you get a warning. And if it gets more than one warning, you get a ticket. I mean, it doesn't seem like brain surgery. And I just think that we need to think maybe a little more simplistic than trying to create some, whatever. I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Dale.
Bill White.
Bill?
I want Bill White again. I want to second her motion about this being simple. I can't understand why this is a big issue. It seems to me there's some real simple solutions to this. No overnight parking on the street unless you've got it cleared with the office. So you got relatives or somebody that's there. Issue residential stickers to everybody that you put on your car like they do in all sorts of condominium places all over the state. Issue as many of the placards as anybody wants to give to their people that are visiting them. And then here's the issue. One warning to a car that doesn't have either a placard or a sticker on their car, making it clear that if you park there again, your butt will be towed, and tow them. And it'll take 2 seconds for the university to know that if you park on that street, you're going to get towed. It's just simple. I mean, I don't understand it. Also, we need the red paint on the circle. And also I'd like to see red paint on where the walkways come onto the street, because people park in front of the walkways, and some of our people here use canes or walkers, and they walk down and here's a damn car parked blocking the walkway. Let's do that. It's just seems simple. And then I'd like Betsy to continue to say, don't park in front of the units that have windows that face the street unless you've got an exotic car. Then it's okay.
It's sexy cars
Anyway,
are.
it just seems so simple. Register the cars, placards, and tow. Boom, 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 and issue solved.
All right.
You have also been nominated to be in the committee. And I
Yes.
mean it, Bill.
Yeah.
You've got good ideas.
Some of the letters say that people don't want the red paint or signs. They think it's going to ruin the look of looking out the window or view. So I'm just telling you that we're not going to make everyone happy here. So good ideas.
Jim,
Judy?
you've spoken before. Do you have something new to add?
I know, we need a boom mic.
A quick point of information. We just renewed our area sticker. The city has gone away from actual stickers, and now you register your vehicle by license plate. So it will make it a little more difficult for someone to know whether or not you've got a registered vehicle that's appropriate for Nepenthe, or you've got someone who's come in and is really part of the unwanted.
And that's on the city streets, right?
That is, no,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the J sticker.
Okay,
So no more J stickers.
They've
Right.
gone away.
Gotcha, okay.
okay. Thank you.
Judy Brewington, did you want to speak?
I would like to, but am I coming across? I don't know how to do this on my iPad.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, in listening to this, I like what everybody is saying about simplicity. And I really do feel like the parking placards, that still should be an option. I actually like the idea that someone, I think it was Jerry, that came up with having a little sticker that went in everybody's windshield that just said, Nepenthe. And basically just allowing people to know this actually is a car, somebody lives here, just as an additional part. But I think the placards would still work. And I think, the towing after that, I think for me, the complication is with the computerized system, there's too much information that has to go in each time. If one could register and have that be a permanent thing, such as your address, your phone number, there's about 5 things you have to put down. So you're only putting down a license plate. That's a different story, but that's not the way this is. And it's a hassle. Anyway, I am thoroughly for having our streets be open as Dunbarton is starting to happen anyway, and having a placard or something like that. It just can't be that difficult. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Peter Pelkover, one more time. Grab a microphone.
Just a quick comment, and that is everybody seems to assume that we've got this great security system that checks, at the moment. They make 2 runs at night and 1 during the day.
Correct.
There's violations that I see that they're obviously not getting. We're going to have to revise our whole security patrols based on what you're contemplating. You ought to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
With Dunbarton as it is, they don't have that function anymore, except to check on somebody who might not be there, without the sticker overnight.
Right.
I've only seen 2 cars with the overnight sticker thus far. And as I say, I walk every morning. So, that's a whole nother consideration that most people aren't paying any attention to.
Actually, we've received several letters. Of the 54 letters we've received, several people mentioned that very issue. We have turned our security company into parking enforcement to the detriment of real security. I bet any more people on Zoom.
No. And even if they are, I'm saying no.
We got a lot more.
We
work
have
to
a
do,
lot of
so-
new business, yes.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I didn't think this would go quickly, and it didn't.
No.
Okay. All right.
First item,
Business Tree care proposal, Zone 5. Would
correct.
you please introduce?
Correct. He walked the Zone 5 on July 23rd, and the Grounds Committee reviewed his report and voted to recommend approval at their September 16th meeting. So the proposal is on page 59, but the proposed resolution is the board approves the proposal from the Grove Total Tree Care for Zone 5 tree work for a fee not to exceed $28,760 payable from reserves. So we just need a motion and a second.
I'm sorry,
Marcus moves.
Marcus moved. May I have a second?
I second.
Ashley seconded. Comments from the board, objections from the board? Without objection, approved.
Okay. The next item is some siding repairs, and they're pretty extensive. This is in the patio of 609 Dunbarton. And one wall of that patio, of course, is the neighboring unit. We did ask for a proposal from Elite, but they did not comply with the request for a proposal, or their proposal was incomplete, so I did not include it here. The proposal from Critical Path Reconstruction is on page 64. I'm not recommending board action. I'm asking the board to roll these repairs into the phase 1 siding repair, fencing, and so if that's okay with you guys, we'll just,
Yes, I think that's an
Okay.
excellent idea.
okay, phase 1.
All right.
All right.
406 Elmhurst.
406 Elmhurst, they did some dry rot repairs on some siding and trim, and they discovered that this is one of those units where it has a big patio beam, and there was quite a bit of rot in that, and it wasn't discovered until they were actually working on the unit. I have 2 proposals, one from CPR for $2,320.70, one from Elite for $4,500, and I'm recommending that the board approve the proposal from CPR in the amount of $2,320.70 payable from
May I have a
reserves.
motion?
I'd like to move that motion.
I'll second.
Any objections? Without objection, approved.
All right. Next, we have a fencing proposal for 322 Elmhurst based on a service request. Our handyman went out and looked at it and found that the condition was very poor, overall a 4 and needing complete rebuild. We obtained 2 proposals. Critical Path Reconstruction, $6,055.76. Elite Service Experts, $5,900. The board is not required to go with the lowest bidder, and based on recent and history with fence building in the community, my recommendation is that the board consider CPR, which is slightly higher than the Elite Service Experts. So if anybody wants to
I have
make
a
a
motion to
motion.
accept Betsy's recommendation.
I move we accept the recommendation.
too.
Go with CPR.
Marcus, would you like a second?
I would like to second that.
Any objections from the board? Without objection, approved.
Okay. Another here at 716 Elmhurst. I don't know why I put Jerry Dunn's name in there. Homeowner submitted a service request. We did request a proposal from CPR and Elite. Unfortunately, Elite did not meet the timing deadline for turning in their proposal. The work is extremely necessary. This fence is just about to blow over. So I do recommend approval from CPR if anybody wants to move that.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second, please.
I second.
Any objections? Without objection, approved.
All right, the next one is 812 Elmhurst. Again, another service request. 2 vendors have, and this is a small section of fencing. It's not the entire fence. And I think you can see that in, well, you can see it in the price a little bit. Critical Path has submitted a proposal for $1,900.22. Elite, for some reason, is $5,995.
Do they really think they can do this for $1,900?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, that sounded like Mary moved for CPR.
You always wonder why bids sometimes are really far apart.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get suspicious. Let's see how they do.
Yeah,
They've been doing a great job.
Yeah.
yeah,
Great job.
Yes. You can
Yeah.
testify. to
I
that.
can.
yeah. So I think Mary, you moved and John seconded.
Yes.
Okay, and is there a vote? All I.
Any objections?
Okay,
No objection.
okay. Last of the fencing proposals, 201 Dunbarton. This homeowner has been very patient. She has a small patio off of the back bedroom on this one-story unit. It is in extremely poor condition, and we have two rebuild estimates. CPR is $2,480.50, and a lead is $5,600.
And your recommendation is?
CPR, please.
I move that we go CPR.
Okay.
Second. Any objection from the board? Without objection, approved.
All right. And then this next proposal has to do with the fitness center, and they've given us a lot of things to work with. Both vendors, I thought, did a really thoughtful job. This came about as a homeowner request for some dumbbells, and I think he wanted, I don't know what you call it, a BOSU ball or a something kind of a ball. We can go right to it. Sorry, I'm working out of my book and not out of the agenda on the screen. So OptiFit is our normal, I mean, they've just been our vendor since we remodeled, and I haven't worked with any other vendor, but I will say that the other company was really responsive and thoughtful as well. So I think both of them would do a fine job, except that the second company does not have a local group that installs the equipment. So that would be an additional expense if we wanted to hire like CPR or whatever to actually put it in the gym. But OptiFit had a number of different items. They're recommending a dumbbell rack and a set of weights. And I'm just going to, BOSU balance trainer.
That thing's a beast.
Yeah.
So Betsy,
Yeah.
you gave us so much information. It's
Yeah.
like outfitting this room as a gym.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we have a very small space
Yeah.
that we have for our gym.
Yeah.
I don't think we need all these bells and whistles.
No.
I think that it began with the free weights and then a
Mhm.
rack for the free weights.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm inviting any discussion from the board.
I agree with Linda, and it's a cramped, small, it's not that cramped. It's a smaller room, and
Yeah.
it can actually be less safe if we get too much equipment in there. And
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the risk.
Yeah.
And I think even though it is a cost, I think when people are looking at whether or not to live here at Nepenthe, I think the weights are actually a big deal for some people.
Yeah.
I would like one mat, or we might need kind of a bench. I'll have to look again.
We
but-
do have a bench and we have a mat as well.
Oh, okay, then
Yeah.
we're fine. So then I would say when you look at the Com Fitness, their whole rack with the weights is $900, and it's quite a bit more with OptiFit. It's a different configuration, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we're just going with a dumbbell rack, I think we could.
what does that weight go up to?
Prism. Thank you. That was the name of them.
Up to 40 pounds. What is OptiFits? How many pounds does that go up to? Does it say?
Oh, let me go back. I'm sorry. Hang
That's
on.
okay. I've got my
But the
papers
difference in
mixed up.
cost is gigantic.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
gigantic.
Yeah, they have 10 pairs in 5-pound increments with the rubber hex dumbbells.
It's up to 50.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like it with the row like that a little bit better than having to stack. I mean, I'm short, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it just seems to, yeah, we've got a pretty small space and we don't have a lot of room for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think the free weight dumbbell idea was a good one.
Yeah.
I think the rack is good because
Yeah.
it takes up almost no space.
Yeah, the rack tapes up is vertical rather than horizontal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked that too. Let me go back.
Would,
down
what's
to-
the pleasure of the board? How should we go?
So I think that we should probably go, are we looking at OptiFits still?
No, we're looking at the other one because it's
Okay.
horizontal and
So-
it takes less space.
Oh, I thought.
The vertical, this one
the other one
This
was,
one,
it was
yeah.
a lot more
by
expensive for the
Prism,
row
Prism
one.
Fitness.
Okay, but it seems like to me, maybe we approve or start with weights and a weight, you know, carrier,
yeah,
yeah,
rack,
a
rack.
rack. And then if that works out, okay, maybe we move farther.
Yeah, add a little, I agree.
something else.
Excellent idea.
Or we put an addition onto the.
And this is the one you like right here is this rack with the weights from Prism Fitness.
Well, I know some people would probably like the 50-pound. I don't use the 50-pound weights, but
The difference in cost.
Oh, this, I see what you're saying. This goes
Yeah.
up to a 40-pound, right?
I don't think
So
it's worth.
Will had his hand raised and he actually works out every day. So maybe he has something.
Yeah, would you like to hear from Will Bizarre?
Are we doing that, are we?
We're doing
Can't hear
an
you.
agenda item.
Hello, Will. Do you have a comment on this item?
Yeah, unfortunately I do, and it's, you got two things to think about with weights. One is liability.
Yep.
And the other is the fact that having spent a lot of times in gyms over the years, they have a tendency to walk away.
That was my
Yeah.
worry too.
And I mean, there's a place that I used to stay all the time in Washington DC that had a great set of weights. And somebody walked out with one of the 60s. Now, how you get the 60-pound out, I don't know. It probably kind of sag in your gym bag, but I hate to be a killjoy because I work out with weights 3 times a week. But those are two issues you need to take into account, is that you can end up with a liability issue if somebody's injured. And I don't know why people feel, well, I know why they steal them, because they cost money.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, and there are a number of hours where that is open with, no staff in the building. So
we still
people-
have their card, kind of.
True,
pinpoint it
true. We
usually.
do, but you can't say, oh, it was you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, unless we put cameras in there, which is an option. I mean, we probably could add a camera to the system we already have.
In interest of getting this moved along, it seems we're kind of between two things. Do nothing or go simple with the vertical rack and and the dumbbells.
For
Um,
Am I
900.
reading that right?
Would it be possible to do a little bit more research? Because I know that there's some other like home gym companies here, and just to see if we can get it cheaper, maybe?
I know they're just weights, but my experience with anything that's designed for home use is not going to hold up to the use it's going to get here. So we're like the equivalent of, many homes. Maybe we only have 20 families that work out regularly, but that still puts a lot more on the equipment than just a home use.
Well, I think I can find the, sorry.
Well, I did buy some weights during this lovely COVID period,
Mhm.
and they're very expensive.
Yeah.
And so this actually seems
Mhm.
reasonable. This
Okay.
one seems reasonable to me based on my own personal acquisition of weights. And they also took forever to get them, took months.
Well, how often has this come up that people would like to have
It's
more?
come up ever since we reopened the gym in 2014. Yes.
Because I think that the gym is getting a lot more use than it's ever gotten.
Yeah,
before.
possibly, but it's always been something people have asked about, and previous boards just haven't wanted to act on it. And that's just going all the way back to 2014. Because I think they felt like, we just did this remodel and this is what it is. And it's a small room, but
Would, yes, Greg? Please come to the
you have to have a
microphone,
mic.
Please come to the microphone.
Come to the microphone, my friend.
Or
Ah, but you use the gym quite a bit.
Having background in this stuff, having been weightlifting since I was 12 for athletics, I would suggest you start small, but do start with the dumbbells. I wouldn't go crazy on those. The thing you got right in there right now is excellent for our age group, but our age group's changing. Our age group's getting younger.
Yeah,
And that's
true.
probably where you get some of the pressure from the dumbbells. I would try to go with something that's almost like a test case, buy one set and see how it works, rather than go whole hog on the thing. Because what you have right now for who uses it, that's a pretty good workout area. Yeah.
Okay.
So from a liability standpoint, do people have to sign a waiver or anything? for using the
We,
equipment?
when we issue the key cards, they do sign an amenity access agreement form. It does state that they know that they're using the amenities at their own risk. The only problem is there are, even though we try to get this message to everybody, homes change hands for whatever reason, rentals, whatever it is, and people walk in and they see a key card on the kitchen counter and like, oh, good, we have access. And they have not signed the amenity use agreement, but
Do we have any signs in the gym that it states
I believe we do.
to
Our-
use it at your own risk?
Yes, I believe so, but we can add that.
There's equipment in there now that you can hurt yourself on.
True.
So getting injured is a possibility right now.
Mhm.
I think we've had this issue come up, Betsy, you're saying every year for what, 6 or 7 years?
Mhm.
My inclination, I'd like to know whether whether board members agree, let's go small
Mhm.
and see how it works. Just like you said, Greg, let's start there.
So do you want to get the vertical
rack.
one? I mean, $900 is a great buy.
Yeah.
Actually, it's 1170. I think.
Oh.
Well, shipping doesn't.
Oh, the shipping, right, right. Okay, then why don't we do this? Let me go back and talk to both the vendors because I think with the OptiFit, you're not looking at that shipping expense either.
There is a disclaimer in there that says we ship and install for free.
Yeah.
It was right at the beginning of there.
Yeah, right, right. And I will tell you, I mean, it shouldn't matter, but we do have a service contract with Excel Fitness. They come quarterly and inspect all of the machines and make sure that they're operating as they should be. And I can't see why they wouldn't also just make sure that whatever rack is installed is also safe.
So I think if the board all agrees that we should start with just some weights and the rack, that we move from there. And if you could bring us back next time.
Okay, for similar, the vertical rack.
pretty
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay. You got it. We'll table it till next month to get more
Do
information.
you want a table or do you want to go for the rack and the dumbbells now?
Well, and Betsy was going to find out about delivery and installation.
Okay, let's defer that until next time.
Okay.
And I think they'll be used mostly in the
Yeah.
winter time.
Okay.
Hopefully when it's raining.
Okay, next item.
I like the 50 pounds, but I don't know if it's just me.
Next
Accept
item.
Revised grounds committee member duties.
Steve Huffman probably would like to introduce this item if the chair will allow him. Everybody else has left. We're so exciting.
Okay, so at our last meeting, September 16th, we voted to recommend this document to you. And probably the best bet, Betsy, is for you to get us to the red line.
Okay.
You've had a chance to read it and maybe the red line would give you an idea of why we had the changes. So these are changes from May of 2020. Since then, we've gotten a new contractor. And since then, we've eliminated weekly status meetings. They were initiated while Betsy was not our manager, and we had a manager at the time who knew very little about the grounds. We also had a contractor
It was a miss.
who was a miss, which required us to stay on top of them to get performance. With the new contractor, Carson, that is much less of an issue. So rather than having weekly status meetings, I put out a weekly report to my committee, copying Marcus and Betsy. So that's kind of some background as to why we wanted to make the changes. Another major mover was the emphasis that you as a board have put on shrub removal and remediation as a way to reduce our maintenance costs long-term. And so we encourage in this zone stewards to look for opportunities where that can be done. We also encourage them to take a broader look at, what the issues are rather than getting bogged down in details as we often did in the past. We added the irrigation steward. Well, actually, the irrigation steward duties were described before, and we really didn't change them. It's not a position that's currently filled, but we did add a secretary, the secretary job, the last section. And so with that, do you have any questions on our thinking in making the changes?
Questions from the board?
Yeah, I have several. Because I was comparing the key responsibilities. So when someone is signing up to be on the grounds committee, this is what they see.
In the charter.
The charter. And this exceeds the key responsibilities pretty extensively. And then I have an issue with homeowners essentially tattling on other homeowners about actions in the common area. I don't think that's appropriate. And then there were two different timeframes that were put in here. There was inspect 2 times a month, and then walks occur every 7 weeks. So those were conflicting to me. And as a board, this board, I don't think we've made a statement about getting rid of hedges and everything,
Made a statement.
that we were interested in removing a lot of hedges. I haven't heard a discussion with this board about that at all. So I don't know where that is coming from.
A discussion with the board on what? I'm sorry,
On
my hearing
removing-
is poor, Mary. I'm sorry.
Steve, let me clarify this. Your statement about hedge removal and reduced maintenance.
Yes.
I think the board in theory thinks that would be a good idea over a period of time. That is in the vision document. We have not committed to spend a lot of money doing that. What we have agreed to do is to take care of those little areas, which might be a hedge, so we can take care of some of the smaller areas. The big remediation renovations, like the pilot project, we have not budgeted for, as you know, but we may in the future, but we have not committed to that.
Yeah, you've addressed small areas by giving Betsy some discretion in small projects. Yeah, we understand that.
That's correct.
But am I incorrect in assuming that shrub removal and remediation is policy long-term?
Steve, remediation and renovation are two different things. Remediation can be a small area.
Yep.
Renovation is likely much larger. As you will recall, when you came to the board 2 months ago, you asked for permission to revise this document, as well as dealing with the question of perhaps identifying locations that could be renovated. And we said, we understand that, and that may happen in the future, but we are making no commitments.
Well, okay, then I'm hearing we don't have that direction.
Well, you never,
What I'm hearing?
you never did.
Hmm?
We agreed to let you go out and look for areas that might be subject to renovation,
Right.
with the understanding that we were not giving you the authority to even suggest that they proceed until we look at them more carefully and see whether we can afford them.
Right, and in our zone walks now, we are beginning to identify such areas.
Well, and that's good.
Right.
Now, they may go back in a list, and we'll be looking at them this year, next year, the following year.
And I understand the funding issue is up in the air.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any objections to this because I look at it as being guidelines that maybe not we're not going to do everything that's in these recommendations, but it's a guideline. And whenever you're ready to do something as the grounds committee or to recommend something, it's going to come to the board as an item. So I
Right.
don't have any problems with this.
Steve, why have member duties above and beyond the charter?
Okay, the charter comes from you and it gives us our purpose. I think it's important to have a document that expresses how we as a committee and as, zone stewards, chair, irrigation steward, et cetera, how we go about living into the charter and the duties that you've given us. So I think it's a necessary document. It's one that allows us to, for example, if we get a new member and we assign that member a zone, we need to train them so they know how to do the job. This is a document that is very handy in that regard.
So it's actually defining the role.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's part of my problem with it, is that I don't want people who are my neighbors being given the job to snoop around on their neighbors. I just don't think that's a positive thing to do. I don't even know why that is in here. It's nowhere in the key responsibilities at all. So I'm not understanding. I understand the vegetation, the stuff that we do, the stuff that we're responsible for, the stuff that we pay for.
But Mary, I think this is only going to grounds committee members.
It's funny how rules become rules. And so it may sound like it's only, but I mean, I
We're
don't know.
not telling the general public to go look for violations.
But I mean,
But I don't even think it's appropriate for the grounds committee to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, we asked permission. Do you want us to look into this? We've done it. We had a vote of our committee and this is what we recommend.
So this is coming with a approval vote from the committee?
Yeah, I will tell you, it was a split vote. There were
Yes.
9 members at the meeting on September 16th. 6 voted for the recommendation, 3 voted against it.
I see.
So I
Marcus?
would like to move on this document. This has just been an updated version from the previous version and a fine-tuned version. That's all this really is. And this most likely will be updated and fine-tuned again in the future. This is I don't know if I want to say a living document, but a document that gets updated every so often. So I would like to.
Are
make
you
a
moving
motion
that
on
we
this.
approve this, Marcus?
Yes.
Is there a second to that? All right, Betsy, call the roll on this one.
Okay, Baker,
Aye.
Gray, Tangeras,
What do I abstaining? But I just want to say one thing is, I'm not ready to talk about it today, but I personally would like to see, more expertise in the landscaping committee. I'm nothing against the work that you do, but maybe if we could get a landscape architect that ever moves in here, or someone with, more design or the master garden,
okay,
I would like to see more from the group.
okay, but for voting,
Where are we on the vote?
Cook
Aye.
and Dasher,
So we have
3 to 2 to approve.
3 to 1 to 1.
Yeah, 3 to 1 to 1. Motion carries.
All right.
All right, last item. This is a vendor exception resolution. There is a new contractor that would like to do business with Nepenthe. The name of the group is Tuck Brothers Construction. They do not meet all of the requirements. And so if we go to the verbiage here. It says that we, the undersigned, the members of of Nepenthe, or under the Nonprofit General Corporation Law of California, being all current members of such board as presently constituted, do this by this writing consent to make the following resolution. Whereas the board of the directors has the duty to administer the affairs of the corporation, management has requested insurance, license, and W-9 information from Tuck Brothers Construction. The company has provided all required items except those checked below. So they have provided proof of commercial general liability coverage in compliance with our standards. They have provided additional insured endorsements, including the association and First Service Residential as additional insured. But they have not been able to provide proof of commercial automobile liability coverage with a $1 million liability limit.
Which is the easiest of those to get.
Well,
I don't get
actually,
it.
for that cost, for that limit, apparently it is pretty prohibitive.
Which means
cost-wise.
that their driving record is not good. That's what that means. That's what it means.
Okay.
I've been there.
Okay, and they do have proof of workers' compensation insurance
Right.
and contractor's license. And
I don't
will-
see any reason why we should let this go. If they can't get insured, we shouldn't be working with them.
Okay.
So did they just come to us?
No, some of you might remember Brandon Tuck. He's about 7 feet tall. He's very tall. He worked for JWS for many years. He was their foreman. And so he's very familiar with Nepenthe. He and his brother have formed their own construction company, and they've actually been pretty busy, but he, like most people that come to work here, like me and Normal, we grow to love the place, and he wanted the opportunity to get some work here.
I think you should tell him that if he gets the proof of automobile liability coverage for $1 million,
Yeah.
that we would reconsider and
Sure,
doing work
yeah.
here.
Yeah, and that's basically what this resolution
Right.
is here. So if a director wants to move this, that direct management to inform Tuck Brothers Construction that the standard requirements need to be met in order to provide services. Is that your motion? Okay, Marcus moved that.
Okay. Any objections to this? Without objection, approved.
Okay, let me just make sure I circle the right resolution here. Marcus.
Okay, we now have the second homeowner forum. Anyone in the room?
Do either.
Okay, how many folks online want to speak at the second forum?
Yeah, please just. No. No, we're
Greg,
getting ready to do
I'll be glad to
karaoke.
talk to you.
Anybody on the Zoom is welcome to just unmute themselves and speak up if they would like to. He just hasn't removed now he has.
Anyone care to speak on Zoom?
No, look,
Going, gone.
Okay. We done?
Adjourned. So there actually are websites that you can do karaoke at. So we should probably end every board meeting with a karaoke. All right. Thanks, everybody on Zoom. I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay.
Hey, Betsy, did we hear anything from
Yeah, he and his wife.